how I started with Swimrun and how I got connected with Andy. I guess a lot of luck and a lot of just saying yes to things I wasn't quite sure what would be at the other side, but kind of feel like that's what you get when you get the most out of life, is not really quite sure knowing what you're signing up for, but being fully present and just kind of experiencing it.
Welcome to the Löw Tide Böyz, a Swimrun podcast. I'm Chip.
I'm Chris. This is episode 90. 90.
Or 90 hundredths, so the way to 100.
Yeah. On the show this week, we have longtime friend of the show, Mel Bartow. She's part of the California Swimrun crew, and she recently traveled to Sweden to race ÖTILLÖ, the Swimrun World Championship, with her partner, the one and only Andy Hewitt. She shares her experiences with us on the show. This show really is Mel's epic Swedish adventure.
But first, training update. I don't know if you heard, but Chris and I are stoked. This week is race week. Ödyssey, Swimrun, Orcas Island is coming up on Sunday, and we can't wait to get on the island and take on this super challenging long course race. We're about as trained up as we're going to be. Yeah. The hay's in the barn, as they say. No fear-based additional miles or overtraining to be had this week. But we're really looking forward to getting on there, seeing everybody again.
Yeah.
And having our own adventure on Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
Up, and away.
Yeah, I'm gonna be channeling Nicholas Ramirez from the Engadin show. You just go up.
That's all up.
That's what Keep going. That in my mind. But yeah,
now
super stoked.
Now for this week's shoutouts.
All right, so this week we're shouting out our wives. We literally wouldn't be able to do the show and or travel or races without their support.
True.
We know that it's tough on them to handle everything around the house and deal with the kids while we're out in the woods tethered together and whatnot. But we're just full of gratitude for their support and love. And, we love you.
Yeah, thank you kindly. Now for this week's Feats of Endurance. So this week's winner is Bas Boud from the Netherlands. He raced Swimrun Lautersong over the weekend and put in a really good effort out there. Strong work, Bas. So bonus winner this week is our friend Caroline. She ran her first half marathon since her giving birth to her second child, her beautiful daughter. Way to go. We are cheering for you there. Be sure to go give both of those folks kudos on the Löw Tide Böyz Strava Club. Just go on to Strava, search Löw Tide Böyz, join up with 300 plus swim runners as they train for life and swim runs and other stuff.
Yeah.
But particular, go give Carolyn and Bas some kudos. Now for everyone's favorite theme song segment, This Week in Swimrun.
We've got something new for everyone this week. We're calling it Race Director Reports. And our first installment is with our friend and co-founder of EX Swimrun, Nicholas Roman. He joins us to talk about last weekend's EX21 Swimrun event in Stockholm.
What's up, Löw Tide Böyz? This is Nicholas Roman from Sweden, Stockholm, calling and giving you a short race report about the EX Swimrun Fall Edition that we did this past weekend. Yesterday, actually, on Sunday, it was finally time to launch our inaugural swimrun, EX Swimrun, after about a year and a half of planning and COVID and, all the shit that's been going down, canceling races and everything. So we finally did it. We had the big race yesterday in Sollentuna, just outside of Stockholm. And it's in Edsviken, which is one bay of water. So it's surrounded by land on both sides and a bridge at the very end. So we did, it's a 23-kilometer course initially with a 5-kilometer swim and an 18-kilometer run. We had to shorten the course a bit and make some changes due to the fact that fall really hit us like a sledgehammer 2 weeks ago. Basically, I think after ÖTILLÖ, it dropped like 10 degrees. So we had 12 degrees in the water and we had about the same temperature in the air. So the conditions were cold And that's what we promised: cold swim and tough trail. And we did the race. We had 60 people on the starting line, the inaugural 60 pioneers that dared to believe in us that we could do something different and sort of challenge the norm with EX, which is what we're trying to do all the time. So we started on, we had 60 competitors and 2 dogs, actually. We had 2 canny teams. We did something different this time as well, because we wanted to show sort of the beginners and maybe the people in the front of the pack that you can experience the really fast swim runners if we sort of change the starting order. So we did what we call a pursuit start, because what we did is we set off teams and solo competitors in small groups of maybe 4 to 6 people in each group, with about 5 minutes in between, which meant that the absolute fastest swim runners, the ones that we know are really, really fast, they started maybe 30, 35 minutes after the first swim runners. And they just started, pursuing them, chasing them around the course. And you could see pretty quickly, about halfway through the race, or one of the people starting at the very back of the field had already caught up with everyone and was in second place after a mixed team that actually came in first, which was really cool. We had the Falcon Mountain base jump, and as the water was pretty low, the water level was pretty low. We measured it to 6 meters. And of course, it was voluntary. You didn't have to do it. But we had 50 competitors jumping, and we saw some amazing jumps. People were doing, a Daffy, and someone did the EX as well with their hands out. And we had the pool boys. They were throwing them in the water before they jumped, and some of them had them in between the legs. Some of them sort of had them on their backs, and they were just bobbing up like a buoy in the end. And it was great fun. Since we did the pursuit start, we weren't getting the fastest teams first across the finish line. We were getting fast teams, obviously, but not the fastest team. So I think the fastest team that won, actually a mixed team, I think that's at the fastest time, they came in maybe third across the finish line, but they were the fastest. So it was really cool. Everybody did it. Even the dogs made it across the finish line. We let them shorten sort of a few swims and take some easier routes on that mountain, just for the safety of the dogs. But it was super cool to see. So we managed to do it. We launched our race, and now we're all smiles, and everybody's giving us thumbs up and saying, okay, this is really cool. Now we know what it's all about. Go to our website, exswimrun.se. And you can have a look at some of the pictures of the jumps. And we're going to post a jump reel soon, a little video with some of the best jumps we saw. But we've already started planning for EX22, which will be next year. We're going to do 2 races next year, like we planned this year, but we couldn't do. We're going to do the EX22 spring race in May. And then we're going to do the EX22 fall race in September. And then, of course, we're going to do the ARC Super Sprint again in May. It'll probably be on the Saturday, and we'll do the EX22 Spring Edition on the Sunday. And the big news, now everybody has to listen really carefully now, because it's probably the first time we're going to out this officially. Everybody wants to do the ARC Super Sprint. There's 2 ways to be on the starting line of the ARC Super Sprint 22 next year. The first one is by invitation. And then the second way to get into the ARC Super Sprint is we're going to actually launch a time trial on that Saturday in the morning before the actual race. We're going to open the course up, and we're going to have a time trial. So you can come to Edsvik, you can try the course, register your time with us, and then if you're fast enough, maybe the top 20 times will get a spot in the ARC Super Sprint later on in the afternoon. So those are the big news for us from EX Swimrun. Check us out, exswimrun.se. Follow us on Instagram, EX Swimrun, Facebook as well. So a quick update from us in Sweden. Winter's coming. It's getting cold. We're heading down to Koster this weekend to do the Koster Swimrun. And then we're going to just start diving into the icy waters and doing really short swims. But have a great one. And I love your podcast, and stay cool.
In other swimmer news, the 5th edition of the Urban Swimrun Challenge took place over the weekend in Dusseldorf, Germany. It's cool to see this type of urban format, and the race looked like a lot of fun, just sort of jumping off a bridge into a stream in the middle of the city, jumping out, running down an alley and stuff.
Nice.
The Folkhalsan swim run went off without a hitch on Saturday in Finland. This event is an ÖTILLÖ merit race and took place about 40 kilometers outside of Helsinki. Shout out to friends of the show, Nicholas Ramirez and Beek Tarayo of Team Envol Baywatch for winning the race.
Kudos.
They won. It's awesome.
That way to be.
Yeah, way to be. Finally, the Backwaterman swim run took place in Austria. This race starts and ends in front of the Ottenstein Castle, which looks pretty awesome, I must say. Shout out to
starting a race by a castle.
Yeah, I mean,
that's
might
cool.
as well. Shout out to friends of the show, Osa and Henrik, a.k.a. the Swimrun Papa, for finishing first place in the mixed team category for the 36 km
Because we had such
course.
elite fans of the show.
Yeah, strong
winning
work.
races all over the
awesome.
place here.
There's obviously way more races that happen over the weekend, but we got a long show this week. That's it for this week. Be sure to tip us off of any swimrun news you'd like for us to share on the show.
Yes, now on to updates. So we have some new merch. It's in the store. So if you want to check out the newest ways to show off your Löw Tide pride, head over to the Löw Tide Böyz shop. We got new t-shirts. We got restocks of the OG standard issue and some super limited edition cotton candy tie-dyed hoodies. You don't want to miss
eat them.
those.
You wear them.
You can't eat them. They do look delightful and scrumptious. If you are racing Orcas Island by Odyssey this weekend and you aren't sure what to do kit-wise, make sure to check out our latest episode of Gear Talk. It's in your feed right below where this episode is. We discuss with our friends Annie and Brooke from the Swimrun Labs about what gear we're considering and using and a little bit of tactics for the race this weekend in Washington State. We will see you out
Northwest.
there. If you are visiting as well and you want something fun to do on Saturday at 10 a.m., you can also join us for a very chill, no-drop, everyone welcome, short mini swim run practice at 10 a.m. leaving from Rosario Resort, followed by a nice fika, which is a little coffee and maybe a pastry after.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're on the island at 10 a.m. on Saturday, be sure to join us there. I think just look for the other swim runners.
Yeah. Yeah, and if you have kit issues, you need stuff DIY, there's going to be some very experienced swim runners there.
They can make whatever lasso
Yeah, we're going to have like 4 or 5 MacGyvers ready to go. So if you got an issue with your kit, come on out.
Yes.
See if we can help you.
Now for Mel Bartow's epic Swedish adventure.
Yeah, so Chipper, this is awesome. I don't feel like this needs a lot of introduction. I think this might be one of the coolest conversations that we've had in a while.
Yes.
Mel, she's a friend of ours. She's part of the California Swimrun crew. She's, and we're talking the Swimrun Monks, the Cali Swimrun girls. We're talking Team Envol Baywatch. We're talking Andy Hewitt, Sean Durkin. So she's part of that crew. So we knew who she was. We met her in Austin, and then we just kept in touch because she's super stoked on Swimrun. So she got this opportunity to go do the World Championship, and we just think she's an awesome person. So we're like, hey, we want to hear it from you, and she really does not disappoint. I think this is a really great interview, and she's great.
Absolutely. So without further ado, Mel says it much better than us, so we'll just let her say it.
Yeah,
Mel Bartow.
Mel Bartow, so happy to have you on your show. Welcome.
Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be chatting with you guys.
Yeah, I mean, we've been talking about this. We've been texting back and forth about doing this for a while, so I'm glad it's finally happening. So you are part of the California Swimrun SoCal crew.
Mm-hmm.
We met you, I believe it was Austin?
I think that's when we officially met.
And then we just kept in touch after that. And obviously, we're doing the same races you guys did, Casco. And then you and Andy went on this, this little trip.
This little swim run called the ÖTILLÖ, Swimrun World Championship.
So before we talk about this adventure that you went on, why don't you tell us a little bit about how you found Swimrun and how did you hook up with the California Swimrun guys?
Yeah.
Crew.
So I guess it depends who you ask on how I started Swimrun. If you ask my parents, it was probably like when I was 4 years old and I jumped in the big pool without my floaties on and I realized I could swim and, had my love for swimming, grew up in the pool, played water polo in college. But I guess if we get kind of to the meat of it, to the swim run piece, graduated college, played water polo in college, did the whole thing that normal college athletes do where they stop working out, they get out of shape. I didn't let that last too long. So I started training for my first half marathon. Through that, I went to a workout community called November Project. Not sure if you guys are familiar with
sure.
it.
Uh-huh.
Met a lot of great people there, including the California Swimrun guys, Andy, who I'll definitely talk a lot more about on this podcast, and Sean Durkin and Phil and Sean, even my wonderful fiance, Sarah, I met there. And then through that, Sean Durkin, so Andy's old partner, said, Mel, I'm doing this San Diego swim run event. You swam in college. You're starting to run. You should really do this. So I knew Andy, and this was, a few years ago. I think you guys did that race. It was maybe in 2018.
2018?
Yeah, we were
Yeah,
there.
we were there.
So that was my first to the swim run community show up. I was like, this is kind of cool. The race is at 4:00. I had nothing. I didn't even know people, right? Like, so random. It's like, okay, you don't have to wake up too early for these things.
You can definitely sleep in for that one.
Yeah, we just had to wait for the regatta to end.
Yeah, just had to wait for all the boats to get out of the water. But that was really cool. So that was also when I realized that, being a college water polo player, that my swimming level was probably not the same as just the average Joe runner.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I will admit now I committed the cardinal or broke the cardinal rule of swim run, and I didn't stay with my partner during the swims. And
you mean your partner couldn't keep up with you is probably the more accurate phrasing.
Yeah.
It was cold. I was wearing this like dodgy triathlon, not even a wetsuit, like one of those onesies. And I had no idea. I was, then I thought I was in over my head. And I guess that's what we'll go into when we talk about ÖTILLÖ. So fast forward, I did Catalina. I got to know Andy Hewitt, the godfather, or known by all of us in San Diego as the father of swimrun. And went out to Catalina with him a few times. And, right before the world shut down, he sent a text to a group of people, and he just said, hey, I'm looking for a new partner for ÖTILLÖ World Champs. I was pretty stoked on Swimrun from Catalina. And like most things I say yes to in life, they're very poorly researched on my side. I just usually go based on, the people that I would do something with and where I'd go. So I said yes without really doing too much research other than knowing Rich Roll had done it. And then the world shut down. And so Anna and I, everyone's not hanging out, but once things started opening back up in 2020, we started training a lot together. And, he's a world-class guy, puts together crazy workouts in San Diego for us, gets us up and moving in nature, when everything else is closed down. So we had a really fun 2020 training with him and Phil and Sean of the Swimrun Monks, and even like the Cali Swimrun girls. We put together a really fun one this summer. And then 2021 came around, and Sweden did not get canceled. So then it was time to go for that. So I guess that's the origin story of how I started with Swimrun and how I got connected with Andy. I guess a lot of luck and a lot of just saying yes to things I wasn't quite sure what would be at the other side, but kind of feel like that's what you get when you get the most out of life, is not really quite sure knowing what you're signing up for, but being fully present and just kind of experiencing it.
Fuck
Great.
Yes.
That was well put.
Yeah.
I don't know. We could probably end the show there. And also, you have been you're a marathon swimmer as well. I think this should go without, before Casco Bay, we met up with you and Andy and a couple other folks for a nice pastry in the morning. Forgot what was that place called, Chris. Anyway, the pastry was good. And then come to find out, you and Andy are swimming around Coronado Island, doing all this crazy stuff. So you really seem to have this sense you're kind of drawn to the water. I sense it.
Yeah, I definitely like the swimming aspect of the sport a lot. If ÖTILLÖ had, or World Champs had, a little bit more swimming, I would even loved it more. But yeah, definitely drawn to the water. Andy is a world or as a marathon swimmer himself. He's done the major swims. So that was a kind of, how people were putting together these COVID adventure things like Everesting on their bike or putting together crazy backyard ultras. Again, Andy had just said one swim, we would swim in the ocean, during the winter. He would convince me, okay, you've got to get rid of that wetsuit. Real swimmers really need to acclimate your body and swim with just your swimsuit on. And so I started doing those. And I think after a couple of them, in 55 degrees, he kind of said, all right, maybe I could ask Mel if she wants to swim around Coronado. That was another thing I said yes to without knowing the distance. I was just like, okay, back of the envelope. Coronado's big, but it's not that big. Maybe I could do it. So we definitely did that swim, which I think prepared us for world champs, knowing that, hey, we've swum once farther than we'll swim in totality.
Yeah.
So it was probably, being a strong swimmer going into the race, knowing, okay, I've heard some of these, like the pig swim and the longer swims can be a lot and it can be cold, and depending on the weather, the waves can be big, but I knew that would be kind of like my comfortable spot.
Yeah.
Then I knew, yeah, sorry.
I mean, no, it's really interesting that you put it that way, because it's like, yeah, it's for a race as intense as the World Championship, like any experience that you have of long-term, whether it's trepidation or it's just like a suffer fest,
uncertainty,
whatever it is, like all these little experiences are arrows in your quiver that sort of mentally prepare you for whatever it is you're going to see, because you just don't know.
That's exactly right. Like I think that's something I've learned from Andy. Definitely is, you can prepare physically for these things, and we're not the elite athletes, though I respect and have so much fun watching the top runners. But really, you can get through a lot by just your mental game in it, and knowing that you have a lot more to give once your brain says, like, what am I doing all the way on Utah? And I still have more of this race left, and I'm only 6 miles through the island. I think you're exactly right there, Chris.
So let's talk about it. So you fly. Is this your first time going to Sweden?
First time in Sweden, yeah. It's only third time overseas.
Oh, okay.
Wow.
First time in like Scandinavia, sort of like northern.
Yeah. Yep.
Sweet.
I studied abroad in India in college, and then I did the classic kind of Europe trip after working for a few years, and then this trip. So
nice.
Yeah.
And
cool.
you made it a nice vacation for yourself, follow along on Instagram. You were there for a couple weeks.
I was. So, was stoked to get out there for the swim run. Definitely focused on that. And we think we made the most of our time in lead up to the race. We had gone out to Ötyllö to spend a few nights there before even the race started, so we could see what these rocks looked like and what the water felt like. Definitely recommend that. That's a whole nother story on the side, but
then we did
that's
the
why
race.
We're here. So we can go into that. And then I went over, hung out in Stockholm, and went to Copenhagen. And I guess those are all individual stories, but depends where we want to go.
I like the idea. I like the reconnaissance trip to Ötyllö.
That also seems very Andy.
Yeah, that does seem like something Andy would do. And mind you, Chris and I, as we were enjoying a couple slices of pizza sitting outside at Casco Bay, we're just sitting there on the corner, and up ride this hill on 2 beach cruiser bikes is Andy and Mel riding up like, hey guys, what are you doing? And we're just shoving pizzas in our mouth, and they're out riding their bike like the day before the race or something in Casco.
Yeah, just cruising.
I have a sense of a lot of fun over there on Ötyllö.
Yeah. Andy definitely knows how to explore the course before you get there. So, I think over at Casco Bay, we rented bikes and rode all around one of the islands. before that race. Even in Austin, we drove around our minivan for what felt like a couple of hours looking at all the swim entrances and exits. And that's something I've never really thought about in racing before, but in races with so many different transitions where you're getting in or you're getting out, it is super helpful to know, okay, actually it's way easier to, run 25 more feet and enter the water here and really maybe try to point yourself to exit there. There's so much strategy, even a race like Casco or Orcas coming up where there's, more than 10 transitions, you can save a lot of time. So that's definitely something I've learned from Andy, which is a cool thing, I think, about this sport. So for Uta, to get out there, fly over 3 planes, then 2 trains, then a bus, then a ferry. We land there. we get onto Uta, and probably one of the most special islands I'll have gone in my life. Really small community there. Right away, we run into Emma, who's someone from the ÖTILLÖ race setting up. I think the community is just outstanding right away. The Uta Vard House is the hotel there. They have cute little cabins, and they're just super hospitable. And Andy goes, okay, we're waking up at 6 a.m. to take this boat to Uta. And then we're going to run and swim back. We'll do the final 10K. Okay. 6 a.m.
How many
jet lag.
days away from the race are you at this point?
That was a Friday and the race was Monday.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So reconnaissance / just, tune up kind of thing.
Yeah. And I'm glad we did it. So we take this little boat out there, and you can just tell Andy's in his element. We're flying out there. I forget the guy's name, but a really nice guy that drove us out there. I'm where am I in the world? I'm jet lagged, having a coffee, and the boat's still running. And Andy's all right, we're jumping off. I felt like we were on some sort of mission.
Yeah.
Okay. And we jump in, and the water was so cold. And I immediately was like, whoa, Mel, you're in over your head. This is too cold. The water is so saline, so not so salty.
Yeah.
So you don't float as well. Oh. And so it almost feels even colder. And instantly I was like, uh-oh.
I heard that you can even drink it. If if you're swimming, you can just drink it.
Oh.
Yeah. So all the cool local people, right? All the Swedish people were telling us before the race, oh yeah, we just take gels and we'd barely stop at the aid stations. We just drink the water. I wanted to be cool like the locals. So I did drink some of the water. I don't know if that was a good thing. I kind of had stomach issues on the race day, but I think that was probably because of other things.
It was worth it though, I think, for that story.
I think it was worth it. It's
all part of the experience.
Yeah. I'm going to guzzle some lake water at Orcas.
Unintentionally.
Really good electrolytes.
Too funny. So you do this training session, you jump in the water, finally you're like, okay, I'm not going to die here.
Yeah.
What was your sort of first experience when you're transitioning onto basically the island where it all started?
Yeah, so it was an experience like no other, and I think that when I reflect kind of back onto it, you can split into 3 things, the community, the nature, or the adventure, and I feel like there's a story with all of those. But I think when on this training day, when I got onto the island, everything was just kind of fun at that point. I think if I flash forward and I got onto Uta after Uta after the final stage, right as I got off of Orna, Maria, who's one of the people from the press who is also runs Wild Swimrun, she's there just yay, Mel, you finally finished Orna. You've got the 10K left, pure joy. I think at that point. So I think if maybe there was one emotion tied between all those things is just joy. there was a lot of tears going on. The body didn't feel so good, but I think that the mind at that point, when you're in that position of the race, definitely is filled with a lot of joy. You're seeing landscape like I've never seen in my life. It's kind of like, if I would have to compare it to something, it's like Vail Island over at Casco Bay, where the rocks are just like, the rocks take over everything. So you're not you're not really focused really on anything else. Like you don't even know your body hurts because you have to figure out how to climb over these rocks or keep rock hopping. So that the last piece of the race is definitely beautiful. And I think kind of all those emotions that you felt the whole day kind of maybe go away. And there's just that one emotion that, at least for me, was pretty consistent, was just pure joy.
Wow.
Yeah.
Sounds like quite the experience.
Sounds nice.
I'm jealous.
I don't know if you asked Andy that though.
Yeah, I was going to say, what's Andy's take on this whole thing?
He probably was like, well, Mel, Andy is such a trooper and such, a rock in all of this. Like, I would say like the first 9 hours, I felt pretty good. Pulling the swims, rock hopping, having fun at the aid stations. No one's speaking really much English on the course. They're just, they say two things. You probably saw this on the coverage, like Royobot and hey ya, hey ya, hey ya. Mm-hmm. Everyone's saying that. Andy was doing great the whole time. Just, he's really pretty even keeled. And then Uta kind of did, tear my heart out. And
you mean Orna?
Orno. Yeah. I've just forgotten the name because that's how bad it is.
Blocked it out. So let's back up a little bit. So we're kind of jumping around, but I really want to get a sense of, okay, fast forward, you finish this training on Uta. It's amazing. It's time for the race. Like, walk us through that morning, getting to the race. What was going on in your mind? Were you super stoked? Were you anxious? All of the above, like whatever. I want to know what was your experience like?
What was going on in the world of Mel? So like again, the way that they have built out World Championships is so cool. Like nothing I've experienced before. So you go to another hotel the night before the race with all the racers. You all go to this race briefing. And it's just something is so unique of seeing, I think there was 21 different nations of all these cool people coming in the door. That's a little intimidating though, because I don't know, in San Diego, you can put together good training. I hang out with a lot of swimmers and runners and kind of can hang in the middle of the pack here. Mm-hmm. But you watch all these people walk in and it looks like no one's ate a cookie or had a beer in the last year. Yeah. And they're just lean, mean fighting machines. And so I think I got a little like, but
I mean, I kind of felt that in Catalina. Like, I was just like, I feel like a middle-aged dad right now.
Well, I mean, one, we are. But two, they're also European.
Yeah, they're just, very, very and maybe they just don't, you don't speak the language. I'm like, talkative San Diego person, but like, a little intimidated by the whole thing. Anyways, it was super cool having that experience the night before. Then they say, okay, breakfast starts at whatever time, 3 a.m. You got to be on this boat by 4 a.m. So go to sleep now. Go to sleep. I actually slept pretty well. And woke up, go out, have breakfast. Oscar Olsen actually was like right in front of me in line, and I like fangirled it for a second. Like, hey, I follow you on Instagram. You inspire me. And
he loved it. I know Oscar. He loved it.
And so then you get on this boat, and it's kind of like Catalina, where everyone on the boat is going to go do this race. But I guess for me, I was like, but this might be like 12 hours until like I have a working bathroom again. And did I put enough lube around my neck so I don't get super chafed? And Sean and Phil just kept telling me like, the only thing, like, you need to just be able to eat food out there, or you're going to bonk. And like, you can do this. Just don't
bonk your brains out.
Yeah. And so
sage advice.
I'm like, okay, like, will all these gels work? Like, so I'm just like over planning now in my head. And like, we're now approaching Sondheim, which is the island that you start the race out on. You get to Sondheim, everyone gets off the boat, and you have like about 20 minutes before the race starts. So everyone's running around. People, myself included, are going to the bathroom, trying for the last time. That's probably when the nerves started, but trying to play it cool. And, people were talking about the water temp, but since I think I did that training day, I knew it was cold, but I knew it was like, I already had that like, oh my gosh moment. So I knew, okay, I can swim in this. That will be fine. So the gun goes off and no one's tethered at this point. You can't be tethered, and you just, you start going. And I really think that like that kind of beginning and for so much of the race was just like so much fun. Like, there's people going by you, you're having good swims, you're rock hopping, you're seeing so much of the production, like every like kind of transition, there was, people doing media stuff. So I guess that was kind of the lead up. I'll pause there for a second. But I think you can't go like this whole race. It's not just the race. It's like the day before, and we'll get there like the night after the race and the morning after, and the ferry boat back to Stockholm. There's just so much. Yeah. The race,
it's
for
just
me,
a whole experience.
Yeah. Took like 12 and a half hours, but like, 3 days, what is that? I'm not great at math. 72 hours of, 36. Yeah, 72 hours of. You guys can proof edit that in the show notes. Mel doesn't know how to do math. Of like such a cool experience.
Yeah,
man. ÖTILLÖ has it down for sure. All dialed in.
Oh yeah, I guess I'll say it now. Like Michael and Mats, they're definitely the brainchild of this, and just seeing their organization from start to finish is really, cool, inspiring. All the people, I got the opportunity to meet Jasper and Mats, two of the original brothers that started
nice.
And I met them the day when we were out on Uta before, and got to have meals with them and hang out. And they showed me like this buoy they still use that they used back then, and it's like 2 water bottles taped together.
Nice.
I love it. Well, this is a total tangent, but I think Mats and Michael's fingerprints are pretty much like all over the sport of swimrun, because they built it in this image. I mean, we recently had Michael on, and he's talking about the adventure racing background. And as he was saying, it makes a lot of sense. Like there's all these little pieces that are sort of built into the sport, but that's all Michael and Mats, if you think about the early days. So it's so great that this is this is really their baby. And every detail sounds like from your hopefully we'll get to experience that at some point, but like every detail was accounted for, and there was some thoughtful consideration going into everything.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with you, and definitely think you both should experience it.
We want to.
I think meeting some of the other American teams, and I am in a humbled position where I was lucky that Andy had already qualified with Caroline. She being in med school couldn't go. His other partners, couldn't do it this year. And so I do feel humbled that I kind of got in that way. But talking to some of the other Americans like Mimi and Timothy and Mexicali Swimrun, and just learning about how, by going to merit races in North America, that you can get enough points to then do the race in Sweden. You got to do it.
We're
the plan.
It's
a
our
game
goal.
plan.
That's our goal.
So you were out there, and not to gloss over 9 hours of endurance activities, but to paraphrase what you said, I was feeling good for the first 10 hours or 9 or 10 hours, which is just a really funny thing to say anyway. Like, oh, for 9 hours, I was totally fine. I was just swimming and running all over the place. But was it all kind of surreal? Did it all flow along sort of as expected, or walk us through a couple of your favorite moments from ÖTILLÖ?
Yeah. Your question on it, did it all flow together? Yes. Are there some favorite moments? Of course. I think so. The first 15K, I think that's what it is. It's there's the 15K sprint prize or whatever, and that's the first place. They have a big aid station. They had a media person there, Nancy, who is wonderful. I don't know if she's a Canadian living over in Europe, but she's great. I think that was, I don't know what island that was on. It was one on the big islands, and Namdo or Romaro. And that, I was just, having so much fun. Andy usually overheats. So at that aid station, I'm throwing water on him. The spirits were high. I was wow, feeling great. And I think being able to be interviewed by Nancy, as cheesy as it is to say, that was a fun, cool experience. I think really cool. When you're all the way over there, also having my family, my friends. Oh yeah. So
totally. A little footnote there, because I was watching this live from, the comfort of my couch, and, there was a little chat thing going on, and we had a lot of heat. California Swimrun was getting a lot of heat. Mel, you were getting a ton of heat. A ton of everyone just being like, "Go, Mel, go!" It was so cool. It was so cool. You definitely had a fan base that was watching when you hit that aid station. It was awesome.
Yeah. It's so cool that they, have that media coverage that people can really, experience it through that with you. But yeah, I've done a lot, or just the community I'm part of here in San Diego, swimming and running, and so I think. One thing that's important to me is promoting this sport and trying to get more women into it, more, people into the sports. And I think that was just a cool moment that created, just super happenstance. That was great that the timing all worked out there. So that was really cool. I loved the pig swim. I don't know if that's crazy or if I'm going to get commented on that people don't love it. I think it's great. It's a long swim. Your legs are kind of hurting by then, or at least mine were. So Andy and I traded off leading for pieces of it. Nice. And I was able to just kind of wiggle out my legs a bit and just kind of zone out. I don't know if people say this either, but the transitions, most of them are so sketchy, going up on these rock faces, that presents a whole nother challenge. Just
getting out.
Don't slip and break all your front teeth. You're just so that gives you something to focus on. You're just okay, what is this one going to be like? Am I going to eat it? And I guess I did. That's a part of the race I don't really remember. I guess on one of the entrances I fell onto a rock getting in, I belly flopped onto a rock and had a bruise right below my sports bra. The next couple of days. And I was Andy, I must have had my water bottle hitting this. He's oh no, you belly flopped to a rock. Oh all right, that was didn't realize that one. And then for how much I hate Orno, that was just a really cool learning experience. I think, was I, could have I trained more for this race? Probably, but I don't know if you fully know how to train for something like that. I'd done a 150K before, until you've done something like that. And so I think being where I'm at in my endurance career, everything I did leading up to it, I'm happy about. And I'm happy I had the couple of hours that we spent at Orno to now teach me how to train for things like that, sure. Training on tired legs, really getting long days out there. on your feet would have probably better positioned me, but who knows? So I think even though that was like a very pit of the day, now 2 weeks out, that was probably like a peak of a learning moment just for myself as a person and an athlete. And then I know you've asked for only a couple, but I guess
keep going.
The floor is yours.
Probably the finish line was, there were other cool swims there. I would say about every swim is super cool. There's all these jellyfish underneath. Oh. So you're swimming, and then there's just like a school of jellyfish, and they're not the kind that sting you. They're like super, just kind of like chill there. And
so Swedish of them.
Yeah, like schools of them. And you'd be like, in the middle, like you're like, oh wow, I'm in the Baltic Sea, I'm in the archipelago, and I'm in the middle of the water, like of this long swim, and now there's jellyfish, and this is crazy. This is so cool. This is my life right here. So that was awesome. And then, so then I guess I'll skip ahead that finish line. At that point, I had started crying a few times, and it's like Andy had seen every side of me going through that race. But then at the very end, I didn't really want him to see me crying. It's like how the mind works, right?
Yeah.
And I finished we crossed the finish line, and I just like full on tears, right? And Michael Lemmel comes up to me and he goes, "You should be very proud of yourself. It's okay to show emotions."
He's right.
Okay, then I'm going to keep crying. And, that was, just super cool. That's another thing that's awesome about ÖTILLÖ. Like, what race do you go to that the director of the entire race stands there and gives a medal to every single person that finishes? Like, I've never done a race like that before. So that's super cool. And then the whole afterwards, watching, other people finish, seeing people that had finished hours earlier than you, meeting new people. They just throw a great, party and dinner. It's like every single thing that you could want to eat on the planet is there for dinner. The same thing the next day with the breakfast. So
I'm sold.
I guess. You won't go hungry either.
Now, if I remember correctly, it looked like from some of the splits that there was a period in the race where you guys were together with some of the American teams. Did that actually happen, or was it just the way it was?
Yeah. So in the beginning of the race, I had met the Mexicali guys. So I think it's Roberto and Charles. We met them at the airport, and anyways, the next time we saw them was out at one of the islands. And I don't think that they were really expecting to see us, and we weren't really expecting to see them. But for a while there, we were kind of trading spots. And then I think we kind of weren't with them for too long. But for a while, it was kind of nice checking in. Those were the only Americans that we saw during the race. The Swimrun monks, they were super dedicated. They've been training so hard. Mm-hmm. They had a wonderful day. Same with Team Baywatch with
Beak and Blake.
And Blake, yeah. And I think they were trading places for a while. And then me and Timothy, which I didn't meet until after the race, who I ended up actually spending more time with in Stockholm, two really cool guys.
Oh yeah.
They were they're gonna be mad that I say this, but they're the Americans champs. I think they won it all for the Americans. I think
that's true.
You guys can
no, it's true. Yeah, they were first American team.
So I think that they should be very proud of that accomplishment. That's really rad. And being two dads, like, again, I think like what you guys talk about on this podcast is so cool. Like, you really can, the way the sport's like made is you kind of can do it when you have a family, and if you're a prior triathlon person that spend a ton of time on a bike, like you can be good at this sport and also have a family. So I think those guys should definitely pat themselves on their back, and they're really cool people too. I think helping with the swimrun community over in North Carolina as well is really cool.
Yeah, no, we're fans.
Yeah.
And what a cool team name. I had to watch the YouTube video.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. It's a good one. Put that right in the playlist.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For a little throwback action. So the second you finished, did you think that you immediately need to do it again?
It's funny that you asked me that, Chip. Andy asked me that on Orno, which he referenced it was saying, this is probably not the right time to ask, but I want to ask. Would you do this again? And I just said, like, yeah, wrong time to ask.
Yeah, wrong time.
Wrong time.
But then a few days later, and once I could actually sit down without like bracing myself on all the walls, I think I would do it again. I think it's a really cool experience. I think it got me even more stoked on Swimrun. You know, I definitely want to go. I mean, if I could go over and live in Sweden, like, is that Beek that did that with his family?
He's there for 7 weeks or something?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Wow.
Like, so cool. Like Sweden and the people there. And I mean, that's a whole nother thing there. It's just such a cool place. But also to experience other European races, I think would be, you know, awesome.
Yeah, there's so many races to do. Here's another little tangent. Not only was Beek living in Sweden with his family for a couple months, just this past weekend from recording, he went to Finland with previous guests of the show, Nicholas Ramirez, and did
Envol coaching.
Yeah, of Envol coaching, they did like a merit race over there, like an Untitled merit race, and they won it. Just pretty awesome. So shout out to those guys. That was so awesome. Cool.
Machines. Yeah. So cool. And I think he's flying back. Like, Orcas. It must be like right now. And then he's going to Orcas.
He's probably on a plane at the time of recording right now. This guy's, I don't know, he's a jet setter. He's trying to get 1 million points on his.
It's all on points.
I got to get points, man. So you finished the world champs not even 2 weeks ago. What's next for Mel? Are you gonna get back in the water, do some long marathon swims, or are you too hooked on the swimrun bug now? You can't quit it.
You just can't shake it.
Next is Orcas. Are you doing Orcas?
I am going to Orcas. Ooh. Yeah, Andy and I will be there. So you had me at your Fika meetup, which you can't tempt me like that because I don't know if the cardamom buns are going to be as good as they were in Sweden, but I'll still be there. Or at least I'll try to convince Andy that we should go. But I think it's really easy because I think with Orcas, like everything kind of is just right there, which is cool.
Just tell them it's recon.
Yeah. Super recon. We gotta do our pastries with the Löw Tide Böyz the day before the race.
I'm happy to make any pastry involved activity a tradition.
Yeah.
You just let me know and I'll make it a thing.
Like me too. I think that's just tradition now. So that's next. And then possibly if Catalina, like we're hoping we'll go to Catalina. My body could maybe use a little bit of a rest, but it's okay. YOLO, I think that's what they say.
That is.
And then, I don't know, just keep training and sign up for, this Trans Rockies. It's like so it's not a swim run, it's a run thing. Yeah. Over in Colorado. That's next August.
That's super fun. You'll love that. That's a ton of fun.
Okay. We got to talk about that.
Yeah.
So that I definitely know that, the run part of everything, like I would like to get back to running more and try to do I've never done a marathon. So maybe try to do a marathon or do some halves now things are coming back. It's pretty fun. I think the San Diego community and not just the California Swimrun and the monks and stuff, we put together some cool workouts, but girls that I work out with, just putting kind of some fun adventures locally together. So definitely want to keep doing that kind of stuff. But I'm kind of, I kind of just say yes to random things. So I'm sure, this time next year, I've gotten myself into something else that I didn't quite know what was going to be at the other end of it, but will have enjoyed it, I guess.
Yeah.
I have no doubt you'll enjoy it.
Well, here's something to just throwing it out there. But Engadin,
Ooh,
2021.
Which one is that?
It's their race in Switzerland.
Oh,
there's like cows.
Tunnel Hills.
Oh, yeah. I would like that. Is that on your guys' radar?
Yeah.
I mean, every race is on our radar.
Yeah, our bucket list is unfortunately
our bucket overfloweth.
Yeah,
yeah.
I need to win the lottery to pay for all these flights.
You know what I think would be really cool? It's kind of like in my little magic pot that I, scheming. I don't know if this happens in like a year and a couple of years, but putting together like more California swim runs, like
hell yeah,
getting things like doing a San Diego one again, whether it's like a camp style where it's like invite only, doing those kind of things, or up in Lake Tahoe or Northern California, or it's just getting people to fly into San Francisco and doing a rad aquatic park day, with you all.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Well, for a while we were working on this course at Lake Sonoma, but with the drought and the water level being so super low, but we went out there, we had
some good recon going.
We're really, this was like, 8 months ago now.
We just need some rain to fill it back up.
Need some rain. But yeah, I love that. And Mel, and you and I have been talking about like doing just like a training weekend, just going down for 2 days and just working out with you guys. And definitely want to do that.
That would be a ton of fun.
That'd be a ton of fun.
Yeah. That would be such a blast.
So I guess, any sort of like final thoughts on your great adventure, your epic swimrun adventure?
I guess, just everyone should do it. Everyone should do swimrun. It's so much fun. And I think I'll leave with two things is you might be intimidated by, the pros out there or like all the gear you need. You don't need a lot of gear. I ordered my first sweatsuit off of Amazon and paddles and like didn't even have a tether, and we did Catalina just fine. So I think like you learn as you go, just get started and show up. And then I would just say thanks to everyone, like thanks to you guys. I learned way more about the course before going, and I love listening to your guys' weekly podcast. You're right up there on my Spotify as my top listen show.
Aww.
Sweet.
And
Thank you.
Yeah. And just all the other people in the community are just super rad to like, just kind of this grassroots group of people just keeping the sport alive and keeping it growing, which is really awesome. So definitely put out the kudos to everyone out there.
Well, you're a key part of that. So, don't act like you're somehow on the outside looking in, like you're firmly in this tent of, crazy super swimmer people.
I earned my stripes with going to world champs and finishing.
And dragging Andy all around.
Yeah.
Yeah, but good times ahead. Like the world's opening back up. Let's cross our fingers. It keeps going in that direction. And, there's the Odyssey guys, right? Like there's so much, like the future is so bright for this sport. It's so cool.
Yeah,
definitely.
Well, thanks for taking the time to chat with us.
This was awesome.
It's great to hear your story and your enthusiasm for the sport and for life in general. And we'll see you in Orcas this weekend.
Yeah.
Excited for that.
In a few days.
See you in a few.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you for listening to the Löw Tide Böyz, a Swimrun podcast. Make sure to subscribe wherever you listen to your podcast and leave a review on iTunes if you're so inclined.
You can also sign up for a newsletter at lowtideboys.com. That's boys with a Z. And check out our meme page at the Löw Tide Böyz on Instagram. If you have any questions or suggestions for the show, drop us an email at lowtideboys@gmail.com.
We'd like to thank Writing Easy Records for our show music, and of course our wives for their support and tolerance of our swimrun activities, hobbies, and other bullshit we do.
Finally, you can support our efforts on Patreon. Until next time, get out there and go for a swim.
And then a run.
And then another swim.
Then another run.
And then another swim.
And then run to the finish line. And just keep going until you're done.
Yes, or
until
run
you
to
cross the finish line.
or run to the car
Or run to your car.
somewhere. Just keep running.
Peace.
Peace.